How do you get a business mindset when you're looking for property? I'm Tim Diesel, I'm a commercial real estate consultant, and today I want to provoke your thought process a little bit. So I figured I'd do something a little bit different. So many times when a new investor, or maybe a moderate investor, someone who's been investing for a while, they look for property and they say they treat it like a business, but they don't. There's no way. I mean, I see it. They'll call around, they'll say they're looking for this, they'll call brokers. Okay, let's take a step back and let's compare this to buying a business. If you were buying a business, and I mean like let's talk about a big manufacturing company or something like that, no matter what the business is. Most businesses have a CEO, a CFO, a chief operation officer. So you have your C-suite, right? You have someone who's in charge of revenue, technology. You have someone who's in charge of financing, whatever it is. Well, why aren't you using that thought process when you're looking for property, when you're running systems and operations? You're the guy that's doing everything. What does that say about your thought process? You're obviously not thinking big enough, right? Because you're already approaching it with a one man who's going to do all this stuff. That is not the way to do it. The way to do this successfully, I think, on a larger scale, and I'm not talking about, hey, you're going to buy one house and you're going to flip that and you're going to, yeah, sure, you could do it that way. That just takes longer. The way to do it right is build a mini kind of board of directors. Get some people you know that you work with. A lot of you guys have friends. They don't necessarily need to have a lot of money. Just have a little bit of insight. And start putting the pieces together. Hey, you're responsible for finding property. You're responsible for finding financing. You're responsible for management. Delegate some of this stuff. And every week when you guys meet, hey, how many properties are we looking at today? Well, we didn't get any. So what's going on? It's one person's responsibility. But the sad part is most of you are, and I used to be the same way, so I don't want to be too harsh. You do everything yourself. That is just tough. It really, really is. It will work. It just takes longer. Someone has to be responsible for shopping the better insurances, paying all the bills, talking to the tenants. Is that going to be you? That doesn't make any sense at all. When you start figuring out what's involved in this, and let's say you're buying a 10-unit building. It doesn't have to be that big. Someone's got to be in charge of all this stuff. Don't do the easy way and say, oh, I can just do it all myself. Yeah, you probably can. Doesn't mean it's a good idea. Start treating it like a real business, because when you start scaling and you start getting 10 and 20 and 100 and 200 units, you can't do that anymore. You have to have someone who's in charge. And what ends up happening is when they get too big, they hire an outside property manager. The only problem with an outside property manager is you lose control. It's not about the extra money you make. It's not even that much money. You're talking about 4 or 5% in some cases. It's the control of the property, the control of the tenants, what's happening to the building, control of the building, control of what's going to happen in the future. How are you selling? Who are you talking to? Where are you taking this thing? So these are many things you have to consider when you're trying to get into something. Now, maybe you don't want to get that big. That's fine. But the idea is, if we're going to get into this and we're going to buy retail or we're going to buy office buildings or whatever the case is, hey, we may want to expand, and maybe some of the partners want to go one way or whatever the case is. How are we splitting certain things? Who's in charge of QuickBooks or whatever the heck you're using? There has to be a system, a process, and you have to start treating it like a business. A lot of times I get people saying, hey, we're looking for this. Where can we find deals? That's not how you would do it if you were running a real business. But when you listen to podcasts and shows and everybody says treat it like a business, well, they're not treating it like a business either, because they're not using the same steps that you would use in a business. So if you really do treat this like a business that you're going to go into, you're going to build, and in 3-5 years, whatever, you're going to sell it for, pick a number, 2-3 million, whatever you want, you'd start the steps now. You would actually have a business plan. You'd have someone who has a relationship with the bankers and the banking. You'd have someone who has a relationship with the vendors, the tenants. You'd really start splitting this stuff up. Even if you guys are making less money in the beginning, that's fine. A real business takes a couple of years to make a profit anyway, right? You're not going to make profit day one most of the time. So consider all this stuff. If you guys have any more questions on it or any tips you want, let me know. I'm glad to help you guys out. Thank you.